hearing. His attorney still working to appeal a judge's ruling denying Diddy bail. Denied it twice last week. The Bad Boy Records founder is being held by himself in a Brooklyn detention center, accused of running an enterprise of sex trafficking and forced labor. During a March raid, we all remember this, authorities discovered drugs, AR-15s, and an excessive amount of baby oil and lubricant inside of his home, 1,000 bottles of it. Former inmate and director and founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants, Larry Levine, joins me now. Larry, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with me.
Glad to be with you.
So this jail's conditions, have been described as dirty, notorious for mice, maggots, inmate violence, power outages. You spent 10 years in 11 different facilities, so you know what life is like for him right now. Take us behind the scenes.
I was also at MDC Los Angeles. It's like a cookie cutter of the MDC in New York. So yeah, I do know. But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on suicide watch. And they hand out like psych meds, like they're M&Ms to these inmates to try to get them to cope with what's going on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits. If his lawyer does a legal visit, they have to come upstairs into the special housing unit to see him. Now, have you seen these reports about all these commissary items they say that he could buy? Any of those?
What was one of them? Steak or something?
Ribeye, steak,
yeah.
And all kinds of nonsense. He's in the shoe, people. He's in a special housing unit. He cannot buy things off the regular commissary list.
So this is rocking his world right now.
He can buy a radio.
Yeah, this is rocking his world right now. What about treatment from other inmates?
You've probably seen the news spreading on social media and YouTube, rumors about arrest warrants for some Hollywood celebrities linked to Diddy. Yes, you heard that right, warrants involving top Hollywood stars and Diddy himself.
Treatment from other inmates, Larry. I'm curious in that too, because we know that they don't take kindly to those who are accused of hurting women or children. They're not minors that we know of. But if he makes it to general population, how's he treated?
Look, if he makes it to GP, general population, someone's going to stick a knife in him. They're going to put some bars of soap in a sock and boom. They're going to pop him over the head and split his head open like a watermelon. They cannot GP him at all. There's a better chance of Jesus appearing in front of us right now than him making general population. He's safe where he is at. There's no reason to move him. And this nonsense about him getting bail, they're never going to give him bail. He wants to go to Essex County, New Jersey, to go to a cushy jail there. Remember, he's not a federal inmate. He's a U.S. Marshal detainee. So they just house him at MDC. And in order to send him to Jersey, they would have to transport him back and forth several times a week with like 6 marshals. They put him in one car, and there'd be a car behind him and a car in front of him. They're not going to do that. So his life essentially at this point is just screwed. And I don't see him ever getting out. And remember, he's fighting his case, right?
Yeah, so what does it look like if he's convicted, Larry?
Well, it's going to take 3 or 4 years to fight his case. And then they're going to put him in a medium security institution. He's never going to go into a minimum security camp. He's going to be living in a cell, and he's going to be living in an isolated area. Now, maybe he'll associate with some other people that have similar crimes to what he has, but he's never going to be in GP. He's never going to have regular visits. He's going to have visits through the telephone, no contact visits for him.
When you were an inmate, Larry, if a celebrity was brought in, say, status like his, I don't know if that ever happened for you, what were your thoughts about them being in the cell down the way?
I thought that, wow, look what they've gone from, having millions, billions of dollars.
The story went viral after a YouTube video grabbed everyone's attention with a shocking headline: Joe Rogan reveals arrest warrants for Hollywood elites tied to Diddy. The title was so eye-catching that people couldn't help but click.
Celebrities linked to Diddy and his alleged sexual assaults are trying to keep their identities private. That's according to Houston attorney Tony Busby. He says he's already privately settled some of the accused. That's after his firm sent out demand letters. Diddy is currently locked up and facing multiple charges, including racketeering and human trafficking. Despite 2 requests to be released, Diddy has been denied bail. His mother, Janice Combs, has spoken out for the first time since this arrest. She released a statement. It reads, "It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. My son is not the monster they have painted him to be, and he deserves a chance to tell his side." Joining us to talk about it here on The Factor Uncensored tonight, we have defense attorney and former Harris County prosecutor Bioji Akingbala, Harris County Precinct 1 trafficking director Kathy Griffin-Grignon, and radio personality J Mac from 97.9 The Box. Glad to have you all here on The Factor Uncensored. So, J Mac, when you hear that there could be more people out there, more celebrities,
right,
who are already settling cases quietly, are you surprised? Are you shocked?
That's a smart thing to do. You don't want us in your business. You don't want to be on the Isaiah Factor.
On the morning show, right?
On the morning show. And then you heard his mom. She's doing what a mom is supposed to do. If you pay my bills, I would say, hey, that's not the guy I know.
But then again, of course, you don't treat your mother that way. You may not tell your mother what's going on.
Come on, man. His mama know.
Oh,
his mama
Trust
know.
me.
I'm being naive. The naivete is showing tonight.
Your mama is gonna always know what you're doing. You might think she don't know, but she know.
Got it. Bioji, let's talk about some of the celebrities, which no names have been named as of yet, who may have settled these cases. Is that the prudent, smart thing to do?
I think considering that these civil cases are closely tied to the federal case that Diddy's facing, it's certainly the smart thing to do to perhaps try to get your name out of the public eye, get your name away from the specter of the federal investigators, and just try to settle your case privately, assuming that there's some sufficient evidence to believe that these civil attorneys have some.
The video quickly went viral, and for good reason. It had everything needed for an internet sensation. Famous celebrities, a hint of scandal, and a touch of conspiracy. In just a week, it gained over 1 million views, thousands of likes, and tons of comments from curious viewers. But as the numbers kept rising, something about the story didn't seem to add up.
These cases and someone suing you, would they typically require a non-disclosure agreement to be signed once they settle it with the plaintiff or the victim in this case?
You know, if I was an attorney representing one of these individuals accused, I would certainly request for that before agreeing to any out-of-court settlement. Otherwise, it kind of takes away the point of doing it out of court. It's going to end up being public. I might as well continue to fight the allegations.
And sometimes, Catherine, when you're a victim in human trafficking or sex crimes like this, money can't always satisfy you. And do you foresee any of these individuals, whether it's men or women, coming forward later, even though they've signed the NDA, even though they've been paid, saying, look, it was me and this is who did it?
Well, after you get paid,
right?
Okay, and you done spent that money, and then you got to take care of the I, the R, and the S, who are real pimps, then they're going to talk. You know, what's done in the dark comes to the light. And who? I know you don't have a 50-foot bed in your backyard, do you?
Don't assume too much.
I'm just trying to tell you. But it's interesting because I was, you know, I've been following it, and today on TMZ, you know, it was stated that a celebrity that's bigger.
You'd think such shocking allegations would be all over major news outlets, right? But here's where things take an unexpected turn.
The feds have that individual on tape. Now, it's a little different when you're doing civil suits, but when the feds come get you, they got a little something.
And that's criminal.
And that's criminal. And it raised the hair on the back of my neck.
Yeah, it raised too, I see it.
Yeah, it ain't that many folks bigger that we know in the industry. So it's just a process of elimination. Who we gonna eliminate and who gonna be that person? You more famous than Diddy? We know it ain't Justin Bieber because he done gone to the Lord.
Right. And so, by OG, we have layers here, and we have individuals coming out. Will this ever end for Sean Diddy Combs, or even if he is cleared of criminal charges, people will continue to come?
Yeah, as far as will this ever end, who knows, to be quite frank. I think what's going to end up happening is that some of these cases are going to continue to fuel the federal investigation. And what we should really look out for is if there's going to be more additions to the federal indictment, because every civil lawsuit that comes out, that's a potential witness, that's a potential co-conspirator. And quite certainly the federal investigators are paying attention.
And just because we have the current charges don't mean they can't add on additional charges as they continue to learn more about this case and potential victims that are out there.
And the district attorney of the Southern District of New York said as much in his press conference, that this is still very much an ongoing investigation and that they're still keeping an open mind with respect to more charges moving forward.
And how, go ahead.
With victims, first of all, in order to break through trauma, especially sexual trauma, incest, molestation, rape, trafficking, if you don't delete it, you will repeat it. The very thing that hurt you will draw you into it. That's why so many children that were sexually abused ended up in some form of the sex industry. And the very thing you hate, you'll end up participating in. So it's highly probable that even though they might get paid, they're going to say some things eventually in order to free themselves, because everybody's not looking for a paycheck. Everybody's not, because that pain is deep. P. Diddy's mama talking about how much pain she's in, but what about those victims that were drugged? And the children, there's no such thing as a child prostitute. Everybody that messes with children get molestation, statutory rape. So I even fought to get that law removed out of California. You know, there's no such thing as a child prostitute. So what about them?
Right.
Grown folks, it's a little different. But if you drug, and if that baby all had some of that lay you down in it.
It turns out the video wasn't what it seemed. In fact, it had no truth to it at all. It was pure speculation, a rumor that got out of control. So, let's break it down and find out what's really going on.
And Mila Morales. She's a former makeup artist for Diddy and also Cassie Ventura, working for Diddy for years and eventually becoming a friend of Cassie's. In 2010, Mila alleges that she heard Cassie being physically abused and was a witness to the aftermath of the alleged attack. She joins me now. Mila, thank you so much for being here. This has been, for so many people, illuminating, infuriating, troubling, devastating. You can go down the list of things, but it's so difficult to speak about.
I know.
Being a witness of anything. Tell me how you must be feeling just knowing that this has even come to light.
Well, I have kept this secret for like 14 years. I mean, the first time I experienced it was 2010. And I was in the hotel room when Puff came in, and I had no idea Cassie left. And when I woke up, I just saw his presence come into the room. They went into the bedroom and shut the door, and all I could hear is screaming and yelling and whatever was going on in there, I don't know. But all I could think of was to grab Cassie's things and start packing it up and just getting her out to safety and bringing her to my house. So that's kind of like what transpired from that night. And once she came out of the room, she was badly, beaten.
Oh my God. What did her physical appearance look like?
I mean, it was knots on her knots on her head, black eye, busted lip, but a lot of knots all over her head.
Did she go to the police at that point or anything?
No, we didn't know what to do at that point because...
First, let's take a closer look at the video. It was cleverly edited to seem very convincing. It started with clips of Joe Rogan talking about Diddy's legal troubles on his podcast, mixed with real news footage about Diddy's arrests, legal issues, and search warrants at his properties. This carefully crafted story made it easy for viewers to believe the claims, even though they weren't actually true.
Powerful person, and we were quite terrified, so I just, brought her to my house, and my friend, who is a doctor, I called her, and thank God she was in town, because we didn't know what to do, and she treated her for, just to make sure she didn't have a concussion or anything like that. But it was really it was painful to see Cassie like that, because she's such a beautiful human being, and for a man to just hurt any sort of woman or child or animal, it doesn't matter. But Cass is a good friend of mine, and I just felt, I just didn't know what to do. I felt like, I don't even know how to describe how I felt that night.
Did she describe how she was feeling about having that happen? Did you get a sense that this was the first time?
It didn't feel like it, because it wasn't. It was almost like, I feel like she might have been embarrassed that happened in front of me.
But the incident that you're talking about even predates what we saw in this horrific video from a hotel floor. When that video came out, what did it feel like knowing that had now been public?
No, I was devastated when I saw that video, because it was like I witnessed what could have happened in that room and more, So that was a hallway incident. Who knows what happened, in that room when I was outside of there. And I was devastated. Actually, I've been devastated since the court cases came out. And
to make it even more convincing, the video included clips from press conferences featuring Diddy's lawyers, federal prosecutors, and legal experts. It was a carefully edited mix of real footage, making it seem like something huge was about to happen. But here's the catch: there was never any actual mention of arrest warrants for other celebrities.
Cassie.
He has settled the suit involving her specifically, but there are others, and there are sources that are telling CNN that the majority of the people currently suing Diddy are actually speaking to federal investigators, which indicates the Justice Department might be moving close to an indictment. So do you think that Cassie would testify against him if federal investigators asked her to or compelled her to?
I'm really not sure. Like I said, I can't speak for Cass, but I hope she does. I hope she does, because she's the only one that would know all the information that's gone on over the years. So,
Mila, why do you think? I mean, we've heard certainly, a lot of people in the industry condemn Diddy for what they saw on that video, but it hasn't been a universal outcry within the industry specifically. Why do you think that is?
Because it's a very small industry, and that we all know each other, and I feel like people are afraid to speak up about it. And the only reason why I am is because I'm a friend of Cass's, and I really care about her very much so. And I'm outraged and very, very heartbroken about how he's been treating her. It just it breaks my heart, and I just can't imagine a man treating a woman that way. And not just a woman, but a friend of mine that I've known since she was a teenager. So, I've known Cassie before all of this. So it disgusts me.
I can only imagine, of all the women that you have worked with and people who are eager to be in the industry, what they are exposed to, how they could be exploited and abused in a variety of ways. And that's why the idea that not hearing so many more people speak up is very frustrating and hurtful for so many people.
It is. It is. It is. It is frustrating and hurtful, even for me, because I watch, I know what goes on behind the scenes, and I just can't imagine why nobody's speaking up. I mean, everyone's just hush hush and quiet. I don't know, maybe they're scared.
Then there was the thumbnail. Whoever made the video knew exactly what they were doing. It showed images of Joe Rogan and even Jennifer Lopez, making it look like they were in handcuffs and being taken away by federal agents. Of course, these images weren't real, they were heavily edited, possibly even AI generated, designed to create a false impression. But with just one glance, people couldn't resist clicking.
I think even the defense suggested in their filings that victim number one with respect to that sex trafficking charge is Cassandra Ventura. So people have been saying she could be the star witness. We have an update for court. As I said, I'm going to provide everybody updates as this comes in. First of all, Sean Combs has been brought into the courtroom. Apparently, he came in through the side holding cell door. He is wearing jail pants. He is wearing a T-shirt. And he was seen smiling and hugging his lawyers. So as we talk about Sean Combs, the rap mogul, the business mogul, fall from grace, to see him in an outfit like this, to see him in this environment is very, very different. And Ava, we have a question from YouTube as well. So anybody who has questions about the case, questions about what's happening today, please submit them on YouTube. This is from Lori Crabtree. Is there a statute of limitations on some of the video evidence found? Meaning, can you not introduce some of the evidence because it's time barred?
Now, we know under the Mann Act that a lot of these allegations that go back in time.
And Mann Act is sex trafficking, right?
Right.
Okay.
A lot of these allegations that go back in time, you can still prosecute them. And so under that, a lot of the evidence that may be 10, 15 years old, we are able to still use that evidence in the court.
Brian, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is I think there could be a discussion today about the defense's allegation that the Department of Homeland Security, to be clear, Department of Homeland Security, not the United States prosecutors, not the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York, but the Department of Homeland Security leaked that 2016 video of Sean Combs allegedly beating Cassandra Ventura. I say allegedly, but it looks pretty, and he admitted what it is anyway. But the point is, if that becomes a topic of conversation today, how do you think that's going to shake out? Because they're saying we want an evidentiary hearing to find out who leaked it. The prosecutors have said it didn't come from us. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a great idea. Anything you can do to try and circumvent what I think is a smoking gun in at least the case as it relates to, the character of this fella. I think it's a good idea for the defense. Try and get a little bit of a fishing expedition, going on in terms of who leaked it. More importantly, at some point in time, they're going to need to get a fair and impartial jury. And this might just be the first in a series of motions they file trying to keep the government from leaking.
So why did people believe it? Because it plays into our deep fascination with celebrity scandals and hidden dramas. The idea of powerful celebrities secretly involved in something shady and facing legal trouble is an irresistible story. It's the kind of mystery that keeps people hooked.
It's because we know that Diddy, through his lawyers, is arguing that these freak-offs, they were all consensual. They might be weird, they might be strange, but obviously minors cannot consent to sexual activity. So to the extent there's allegations, credible ones involving minors, that puts the defense in a very different position. They can't argue that there was no force, fraud, or coercion. They're gonna have to argue that the sexual contact didn't happen at all. So it'll be a very different defense at trial.
All right, Nima Rahmani there. Can't thank you enough. Just lastly here, do you sense any delays here? You kind of intimated, but for that, what we were just discussing, this could be delayed.
But for a superseding indictment, which means prosecutors go to the grand jury to add additional charges or defendants, I don't think this trial is going to be pushed back unless there's some delay in extracting and producing this data to the defense.
All right, Nima, can't thank you enough. I'm sure we'll be talking about this case. Combs coerced and abused women for years with help from a network of associates and employees. while silencing victims through blackmail and violent acts, including kidnapping, arson, and physical beatings. Remember, he's pleaded not guilty. He is still in jail. Remember, some of the appeals that his team of attorneys made were denied to get him out of jail pending trial. He's still in jail right now. Remember, these charges include racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Just want to note this from Nima Rahmani as well, that Diddy himself in court, that Diddy seemed confident. He was waving and blowing kisses to his family. Alexis McAdams noted that and acknowledged that as well here. If we could go back to Nima Rahmani's tweet there, Nima was kind of outlining this gag order request. He says the defense asked for a gag order and blamed the government for leaking evidence like the 2016 video of Diddy beating Cassie Ventura to the media. The judge did not rule on the request, but Diddy clearly cares about the court of public opinion as much as the courtroom. That is Nima Rahmani's assessment there. All right, so wanted to make sure we got that in. And also there was a new judge in the case. Wasn't entirely clear why a new judge was appointed here. Judge Subramanian, President Biden, but he treated this like any other case. Nima says, we don't know why the case was transferred from the previous judge, Judge Carter. That remains to be seen here. So wanted to get all those details in. It's a story we're going to stay on top of as well, and we thank Nima Rahmani.
And then, adding Joe Rogan as the whistleblower, the guy exposing Hollywood's secrets, was the perfect finishing touch. It made the story even more believable and impossible to ignore.
Into the woods in Atlanta with the YSL, RICO trial that's going on. So, you've got a much simpler, indictment, 14 pages long, really one identifiable victim, but I think that there's probably others that are contained within it. So we'll see if that May date sticks. If there's superseding indictments, it's probably going to get continued, I would think, because there's just, that would automatically cause that to happen.
Yeah, that takes me to my next question. Krista, we heard from Emanuela that there could be these superseding indictments filed. What do you expect those to be, and what effect will it have on the possibility that this trial may go in May of next year?
Well, I think that the superseding indictments, I don't know if they'll necessarily be new charges against P. Diddy, maybe, or, maybe more identifiable victims. But I think that you're also going to maybe potentially see some co-conspirators that are identified that, played a significant role in, this vast conspiracy that's taken place over the course of the last 30 years. So, with other defendants involved, that can also, Sean Combs will be in less control over when this trial goes and how it plays out.
Well, let's talk, though, about the fact the feds don't play. I mean, generally, they don't bring a case until they have their ducks in a row and the evidence ready to go. And so I have to believe that, yes, some of those things might cause delays, and it's a great defense team. But I also think the feds are well prepared with evidence on hand to proceed against him.
Oh, yeah. They took their time on this. When you think about the timeline here, the Cassie lawsuit was filed last November, and then the raids were in March. During that whole time, you've got to imagine that there is some pretty intense investigation.
But here's the thing, if arrest warrants had actually been issued for Hollywood elites, the news wouldn't just pop up on some random YouTube channel. It would be front-page news, covered by every major media outlet. There would be headlines everywhere, with reputable sources reporting every detail. And as of now, not a single credible source has confirmed any of these claims.
We have a lot of stuff that we're expecting to see, but kind of going back to a little bit of the evidence there. Now, I'm looking through this notebook right here, mainly because we're not allowed to have electronic equipment when we're inside that courtroom, so all of this was handwritten notes. So just kind of going over just some of the things that were happening inside that courtroom, I'm sure you have already talked about it there, as far as just all the data that prosecutors and now have in connection to the case. So 96 electronic devices were seized across 3 different locations. That included Diddy's Miami home, his LA mansion, as well as all the devices that were seized whenever he went to the airport. Because as we all remember, when the search warrants were happening, he was actually boarding a flight with his twin daughters, including, and I believe Chance was there as well too, his 18-year-old daughter now, when they were the search warrants were happening and Diddy was caught up at the airport, they did seize different devices that time as well too. And so the data mainly still has to be extracted. Now the government was kind of talking about just some of the devices are a little bit older, so the government in turn is kind of catching up to the technology there. But they say at the airport they seized 9 different devices. 7 of those have been extracted so far. At Miami, 36 different devices were seized, 29 were extracted, and in LA, 51 devices were seized, 24 have been extracted, excuse me. They say the 8 terabytes of data, that information could come about in the next 2 weeks or so, and they're working on the production, another production of the subpoena returns. And so the defense pretty much didn't object to too much inside the courtroom today. Agnifilo also appeared kind of confident during his arguments. I know a lot of people were kind of expecting for the bail or bond argument to be happening, but that didn't happen, and it appeared that the defense kind of, I'm trying to find the right word here, but they were pretty much complying with all the prosecution's arguments and plan to kind of have everything all good and set to go by May. Now, by the time the end of the year is to happen, I forgot like one big turn right here. They did mention that a potential...
Not a single one. It's also worth mentioning that the channel that uploaded this video has a disclaimer stating that their content is for entertainment purposes only.